Hey everybody, it's Allie and welcome to our Y&R chat for Sunday, May 15th, 2016. Catherine's house has been newly christened. Christened all over the place. Christened on the stairs, christened on the floor, christened up against the bookshelf, christened probably on the couch. Oh my, these naughty, scandalous fictional people. Is there anything they won't do? Oh my goodness, I tell ya, I don't think it was right, Billy and Phyllis having an affair. Obviously, it's the wrong thing to do, but I did not avert my eyes. I did watch the scene, and I did catch myself at the end of Thursday's episode as it faded out. I noticed I was smiling, and not in a I'm glad this happened kind of way, but in a ooh, this show is good kind of way. It's kind of one of those things like, I don't know, I don't have to agree with it, but it definitely, it was shocking to me. It was extremely scandalous to me. I mean, I couldn't quite take my eyes off of it, even though I didn't want it to happen. I couldn't stop looking at it. I mean, it's Billy and it's Phyllis and they're doing it. I couldn't believe it. I absolutely couldn't believe it. I don't know how I feel. It's just so many emotions in me. I think a really good way to start out this chat would be with the poll to get an idea of where you guys are on this. So, Billy and Phyllis, hot or not? YRChat.com is where you can cast your vote on that one. I'm only gonna let you pick between those two because I feel like it's one of those things you gotta go with. I mean, are you feeling it? Are Billy and Phyllis, do they have hotness potential? Were you watching it thinking, all right, okay? Or are you completely disgusted and turned off by these two people? I'm not sure what was what contributed to it the most, because there was an element of it where the sex scene itself was shot kind of using a handheld camera. Did you guys notice that? They kind of took the camera off the tripod and the camera was like up in everybody's face. I mean, it was right up on Phyllis, trying to encapsulate everything she must be thinking, and it was kind of shaky camera work, and there was so much shadows and weird lighting and kind of darkness around it, and it really, I think, kind of captured how scandalous it really is that these two people are going through with it. And there was a part of me, again, also, I don't know if it's because of the actual situation and knowing the weight of what was going on, or if it was the way it was filmed. It seemed so shocking to me. I mean, as she, took off her pants or skirt or whatever she was wearing, or seeing her in her bustier and seeing him unbuckle his belt, I was like, oh my gosh, I thought Bold and the Beautiful was this smutty soap. Usually, that's where I get my smut. But Y&R was bringing it. They were raising the roof on the smut level this week. Oh my. I'm trying to ask myself, what just happened here? What are the motivations of these two people? Because Billy, I feel shocked a little bit also that Y&R is taking the character of Billy in this direction, because to me, he seems revenge-driven toward Jack, even though he, in the wake of everything that happened between he and Phyllis, expressed to her that he has real feelings for her and that he's wanted to be with her for a while. And Jack and Victoria, they were just in the way. He's been dreaming about this moment, and he seemed especially romantic after the deed was said and done. He didn't seem regretful at all. And I'm asking myself, does he think that he loves Phyllis, or is it mostly motivated by Jack? Because Billy could have any woman. We saw that last week. Didn't he sleep with Fiona last week? And now it's all about Phyllis. And so I'm trying to understand why Y&R would kind of make this version of Billy unlikable, because I found Billy to be unlikable. Not that he's not understandable, not that Y&R hasn't done a decent job of presenting us with Billy's point of view. In fact, on Tuesday, Jack went to go see Billy at his house, and they had, of course, another little argument. And Billy said, you know what? I am not going to apologize to you for my life. I am not just going to accept the crumbs that you toss my way. I am going to take what is mine, my company, my children, or a woman. And of course, on the surface, he's talking about Fiona, but we know what he's saying underneath is, I'm gonna take Phyllis if I want her. Your wife, I'm gonna take her if I want her. And it's such a 180 from the type of Billy that we saw before. The Billy Miller and Burgess Jenkins and even the David Tom versions of Billy were almost bumbling. If that Billy did something wrong, it wasn't exactly intentional. I get the feeling that what Billy is doing and what his motivation is driven because he wants to hurt Jack. Yes, he wants to sleep with Phyllis, but we don't always get what we want in life. We have these little things called morals, which tell us it's like not okay, totally not okay to sleep with your brother's wife, and he's just thrown that right out the window, and it doesn't matter to him at this point. So, I mean, I find Billy's behavior to be very shocking, but not as shocking as Phyllis's behavior. Really? Could Phyllis possibly be thinking? Yes, she wants to have sex with Billy. Yes, she finds Billy to be an intriguing, alluring man. But what was so wrong with Jack? Like, Billy has this motivation, feeling like he's always been in the shadows of Jack. Jack fired him from the family company. Billy has this level of motivation for maybe wanting to seek some revenge, but Phyllis doesn't. Phyllis had a mostly happy marriage. I mean, she and Jack have love, they have sex. There was really nothing wrong in this relationship that should make her be looking outside of the marriage, yet she is. So, I mean, I feel baffled by why she would knowingly blow up her entire world, and Phyllis don't even try to act like it's not knowingly. She totally knew what she was doing. And I know it's kind of funny because even in the wake of the sex, where Phyllis starts freaking out, of course, saying, I don't know why I'm here, I don't know why I did this, I should have just said no, Billy said to her flat out, we tried that. We've been doing this dance for a while. You said no many times, and it still led here. It was still going to lead here. And it's because she knew it was going to lead there, and it's because she wanted it to lead there. She tried at the very beginning of the week to do a little bit of, I guess, proactive damage control by telling Jack that she smacked Billy before anybody else, aka, also known as Fiona, could go and tell Jack. And it made her just seem incredibly desperate to keep this secret from getting out. And I really loved the fact, actually, that Fiona called Phyllis out and said, I've seen a lot of slaps. I'm not stupid. I completely believe that the reason that you don't want me in Billy's bed is because that's where you want to be, Phyllis. It's like I was hearing an outside character say it made it so real. I mean, made it at least so, it's obvious. The only person who can't see the writing on the wall, it seems, has been Jack. And I had felt toward the beginning of the week so baffled that Jack is not figuring this out, that it's not occurring to him that maybe there's just a little bit more going on there than what his wife and his brother are saying. And Fiona did sit down with him and talk to him, and I thought, well, is this going to be it? Like, is Jack finally going to put two and two together? He did reveal later on in the week that he hasn't been voicing the sort of feelings that he has had or suspicions that he's had. But frankly, for the most part, I think Jack has been kind of clueless. I don't think that Jack really saw this coming. I don't think he thought his wife would betray him. I don't think he thought his brother would betray him in this specific way. It's really unheard of. It's really out of left field. And Phyllis just perpetuated it at every step. Every time she would see Billy and they would have some kind of moment between them, she would say, "No, I can't do it. We can never see each other again." And she'd run off, and then she'd be right back at him in 5 minutes. This week we found out that Passkey is not so ironclad. The big magic software program that made them all a bunch of money specifically for Jabot has been hacked, and so Phyllis and Jack kind of need to scramble from a business standpoint to try to come up with a solution to that. Natalie doesn't want to help. She's too busy spending all her money. So who does Phyllis go to? Billy. Billy doesn't even work for Jabot anymore. Why would you go to him? It is ridiculous to me. She is creating excuses, finding reasons to interact with him, and that to me screams, I know what I'm doing. I'm going to act like I don't know what I'm doing, but I know what I'm doing. And I think she does. I think she does. Ugh. I mean, for crying out loud, she goes to the night that they slept together, she goes to Billy's house to tell them, we need to stay away from each other. And then they end up sleeping together. It's ridiculous. But the other question I have for you guys is there love here? Is it motivated by love on Phyllis's part? I mean, I don't know. I don't see how she could not feel used or like, I mean, for the fact that Billy was wanting Victoria a month ago and then sleeping with Fiona a week ago and now it's all her. I don't think I would trust that. I don't think that I would feel secure with that. I don't think that I would want to build anything on that. They cannot possibly think that they're going to go on to have some healthy relationship, do they? You tell me, does Billy love Phyllis? Does Phyllis love Billy? Is it mostly motivated by revenge and naughty sex and all of the scandalous things that are the reasons we probably watch? Or is there something more between these two people? I thought it was fascinating, by the way, to hear Jack talking to Hilary, of all people. At the time when this affair is going on at the Chancellor Mansion, Jack is having a sit down with Hilary where she's kind of talking about how she felt pulled between Neil and Devon and feeling like, I was completely satisfied with my life with Neil, and then Devon came along and we just somehow felt like we needed to be together, and I tried to fight it but couldn't fight it, and Jack's listening to all of that, and it's still at that point in the story Jack hadn't really expressed what he was feeling, what he was thinking. Is he suspicious of them? And so I'm watching his reaction, hoping that he's starting to really put two and two together and to not just step back and play a passive role in it. Like, if Jack suspected Billy and Phyllis of having an affair a week ago, 2 weeks ago, then he should have said something right then and there. That would have helped probably splash some cold water on the situation, wake them both up, drag that situation out into the sunlight, and see what sticks. See if these two people are actually having some kind of emotional affair, but he didn't do that if he suspected it. Next week is, I think, going to be the first time that Jack is really vocalizing his feelings. We saw a preview for next week's show, and Jack is asking Phyllis, do you have feelings for my brother? Are you drawn to my brother? And Phyllis just, it's like her hair is blown back. She just looks at him and says, yes. I loved that Travis dropped that little bomb on Victoria this week where it's like, I don't know if it's his ultimate pickup line or something, but he basically says to her, oh, no, no, no. I'm not a bartender. I'm a bar owner, baby. And she totally fell for it. What the heck? As if that makes any difference. Oh my goodness. What is going on with Victoria and Travis, and why is it moving so fast? She keeps hanging out in this bar, and he keeps saying all of the right things. He seems like a nice guy. I've said it for the past 2 weeks. He seems like Billy Abbott a couple of years ago. Kind of a nice, sensible, probably likes to have a good time kind of guy. Or, I don't know, maybe he's a more stable version of Billy. I'm not saying I can't see why she would be attracted to him, but dancing with him and kissing on him in the bar, it's kind of soon, no? I would like to have at least seen that be dragged out a little bit more, and because I think it's a relationship that could have potential. I don't even want Billy and Victoria back together at this point. It was weird to see, even last week, Nick observing Victoria and Billy bickering over the kids, bickering over this or that or whatever, and Nick saying, you know, you guys really do love each other, so why don't you just get together? Or I'd give anything to have what you guys have. And I completely understand where Nick is coming from. He misses his wife, but are Billy and Victoria still in love with one another? I said this right away when Billy and Victoria broke up. He didn't seem to fight that hard for her. And I think she was offended by that. I think she's used to putting Billy in the doghouse for a couple of days, letting him beg and whine and whimper, and then she decides ultimately to open back up the door and let him inside of the house, and then they go on for another couple months before having their next fight. That didn't happen this time, and I think she's offended by it, and I think it's made her feel very, very lonely. But if they could get back together at this point, I wouldn't want it. I wouldn't. I mean, it was going to take a lot of work to get me to want Victoria to be with him. I don't know. I think Victoria is getting ready for a big fall, which is unfortunate because I see her as somebody who really does just want to be happy. I see her as someone who is confused. I mean, she was raised by Victor. You almost can't blame her for the way that she approaches business and her relationships. It's sort of in her DNA. But we saw, just as Victoria and Travis are having their little bar room dance in front of the pool table, that private detective that Luca hired takes a photo of them. So I'm gonna guess that this is somehow going to be seen as a humiliating thing. Victoria Newman slumming it, smooth locking lips with bartenders. They won't even get that right. They'll call him a bartender, which is probably, I don't know, I can almost see it being splashed all over the newspapers, which of course will break up Victoria's illusion of her being Tory, just a nobody on the corporate chain, just a paper pusher that's going to break up that illusion and reveal that she's been lying to Travis. But also I think it might end up forcing her out of Newman Enterprises, maybe leaving Nick and Adam to be the two to battle it out. In fact, Nick and Adam, I think, are going to be battling a little bit more probably in the coming weeks. I think it's interesting because last week's poll question was, if the paternity truth comes out, who do you think should raise Christian? And there were a whole lot of votes cast on this one because it's such a dynamic issue, but 60%, kind of the overwhelming majority, said they felt like Adam should be the one to raise his own son, but 28% said Nick, 12% said Dylan. So it's it seems like most people really want to have Adam, but there is that element of, Sage wanted Nick to be the father, and then there's poor Dylan. Will he be the one? Should he be the one to raise the Christian, considering he's the only father Christian's ever known? But I think it's particularly interesting that it's probably going to be between Adam Adam and Nick, and knowing that Victor has his sights set on Nick being the one to run Newman Enterprises, thinking back to that Victor It's a Wonderful Life kind of dream that he had, where Nick is this cold, heartless, soulless head of Newman Enterprises, and seeing Nick kind of transition out of that happy-go-lucky, laid-back sort of guy, I can see that happening. And also, we had other hints this week of Victor trying to goat Adam into getting back at the company and taking the chair. Almost like he wants to see his two sons duking it out for the ultimate power role. I think that might very well be what's going to happen. I can see Victoria being nudged out of the company under humiliating circumstances to her anyway, and maybe Nick and Adam will soon have more than one thing to fight about. I really like Dr. Gates. I think there is something about her that seems so real and so genuine. I think she has a good heart, and I think she really does want to help people for one reason or another. She just feels connected to Victor, and it's gonna end up being her downfall. Victor is so obviously playing her, and she's falling right into it. I mean, this is something that Victor does. Victor knows how to emotionally manipulate people. It's what he's done for as long as I've known him, and you want to believe him. You want to believe that there's a redeeming quality about him. You want to believe that Victor cares about you and that he wants what's best for you, and Dr. Gates is just new to that game. In fact, we saw from the previews on Friday's show for Monday that Dr. Gates and Nikki are going to come into contact with one another, and Nikki says, "Oh, you're the new woman in my husband's life." That should be pretty good. But there's this moment early in the week where Victor and Meredith are connecting as friends. I mean, it's incredibly inappropriate. It's not so much inappropriate for her maybe to advise him or talk to him or counsel him, but to go out into the world and be his advocate is where it gets inappropriate. And Victor says to her something to the effect of, if you reconcile with your family, I'll reconcile with mine. So there's almost this pact between them to make things better, and it seems so just benign. It seems like such a good idea, you know, that a friend would encourage a friend to go reconcile with a family member, and she does. She has a dinner with her father, and she's got tears in her eyes, and it clearly means something to her to have reached out to her father and to start talking through their issues. But unfortunately, she's being used. She's being manipulated. And I was glad to see that Adam was the one who figured it out. He had that conversation with Victor early in the week where he said, "Look, you think that we don't see what's going on here? I recognize Dr. Gates from that fundraiser a couple weeks ago. Oh, it just so happens that her father is on the parole board and is a judge. Why don't you just admit it, Victor? You're planning a jailbreak," which I think was a little bit of an exaggeration. I don't on any level see the doctor helping him physically escape from prison, but I think she is absolutely going to, and is at least part of his plan, to help get him out of prison on parole. But Adam has called it out. He saw Dr. Gates and her father having dinner at the new Chancellor Park restaurant, which is like the hip new place to be. Everybody's there. We're going to be seeing a lot of those outdoor Chancellor Park dinners, which I like so far, by the way. I think it's kind of nice to get that outdoor set, and I love seeing like the banners in the background that say "Music in the Park," and of course the plaque of the Catherine Chancellor Memorial. But Adam sees them together, and he is able to sense what's going on immediately. As soon as Dr. Gates leaves, Adam has this private moment with the judge where he says, I hate to say this to you, but your daughter's being manipulated by Victor Newman. And the judge, of course, didn't want to hear it, but he did take it in, and he ended up going to see Victor and saying, look, if this is what your plan is, it's not gonna work. But I kind of think, I don't know, knowing Victor, he'll probably, if there's no plan A, there's a plan B. Like, I wonder if he's going to somehow blackmail the judge to get his way. Like, get me off of double denim duty right now, or I'll tell the whole world about your drug-addicted son. There was not much progress on Sharon's big secret this week at all, considering last week that was the story du jour, Monday through Friday. It is surprising to me that there really wasn't any movement. I mean, we saw a little bit of Sharon trying to get Nick to spend some time with Sully, to encourage him to get close to who she thinks is Nick's son. We talked a little bit last week about Sharon maybe knowing that Adam is the father. I don't think so. That behavior to me, that action to me this week of her trying to unite Nick with her son, said to me that I think Sharon does accept or think of Nick as Sully's father. So I think that the real paternity twist question is probably still down the road to be revealed. I don't know, maybe they're gonna save that one for November sweeps. I guess you don't want to like blow up all of your storylines at once. But there were so many moments last week and this week of get used to it, prepare. This is soap opera like 101. It's in the handbook. It's Sharon saying to Nick, I have something to tell you, and then there's a knock at the door or the phone rings or something, and it may very well be Sharon looking at Dylan saying, I have something I have to tell you, and then a knock at the door or ringing the phone or something, and it never ends up happening. It is a soap opera trope, shall we say. So I guess they're going to stretch that out a little bit longer. We'll wait to see. It's clear though that Sharon is of two minds about it, because I think that she wants Nick to have some kind of relationship with his son, but she also doesn't want to blow up her world, blow up Dylan's world, blow up Sully's world. So she is very actively trying to keep this secret. In fact, Mariah wanted to move in this week to Sharon's house, and Sharon clearly does not want Mariah too close. Mariah is the one that knew about the miscarriage in the first place. She does not need that girl putting two and two together, which might very well happen anyway. If I were Mariah, I would have moved out of Kevin's apartment a while ago. To be honest with you, it having nothing to do with the money. As soon as things started getting sticky around the Natalie situation, I think I would have left, because frankly, a relationship where one person is in love with the other is not healthy, and that's how I'm reading it. I don't think Kevin's in love with Mariah. I think Kevin likes his friend and wants his friend, and while I think Mariah feels that way too, I think there's kind of an added element there. Are you guys, is that how you're reading it too? That they both love each other, care about each other, but I think Mariah is in love with Kevin on a level that Kevin is not in love with her. And I think as soon as I would have picked up on that vibe, I would have been out of there. I think it would be damaging to me. It would be damaging to the friendship. So I think I would have tried to get some perspective a while ago. So I was glad to see her hand the keys back. And again, it has nothing to do with the money. It's really more about their relationship. And I also can't say that Kevin's 100% to blame for it. These two people have not been clear about their intentions. If Kevin doesn't want a relationship with Mariah, then he should be clear about it. And if she does want a relationship with Kevin, then she needs to be clear about it. Obviously, just friends isn't working, and it hasn't been working. And I don't blame Kevin for being attracted to someone else. He's obviously really into Natalie. They have a lot in common. She's into him, and he seems to enjoy the smooching up on her. I kind of almost think it's one of those things where you're choosing between two people and they're both very opposite, and one person has the one thing that you want and another person has the other thing that you want, and you almost wish you could combine them or something, because I think that Kevin likes the closeness that he's developed with Mariah and the ease of their relationship. Just being able to watch TV and eat cold sesame noodles or watch Supergirl. Is that a CBS show, by the way? I thought, is that a plug? I bet it is. I think it is. But Kevin likes the comfort that comes from that relationship with Mariah, but he seems way more sexually attracted to Natalie, which is the problem, or the element that he didn't have with Mariah. So I can't help feeling that living together is just giving the wrong impression. He tried to get Mariah to come back, but I think it's better for him if they're not living together. And I don't know, it's just, I'd like to see Kevin and Mariah repair their friendship, and if a relationship is not in the cards, then so be it. Last week at this time, I really thought that Max was gonna go on some crazy rampage through Genoa City, or that we were just never going to see him again. I did not expect him to show up at the lab early in the week and confess everything to Ashley. The only twist is Max, I mean, this kid is a professional. He twists it and says, oh, well, I did make Abby fall down the stairs, but I just wanted to embarrass her. It was just a prank. It was just something I saw online. I didn't mean it. And I tell you what, thank goodness that Ashley didn't fall for it. I am shocked. I really expected this kid to snow her, snow everybody, and continue to snow everybody except for Abby. I was really, really shocked at that, and surprised and pleasantly so. I tell you what, I cannot believe how rational, even, measured, loving, and reasonable that Abby has been through all of that. She understands that Max needs help, but that's not really her focus, even though it's coming to light that this kid made her lose her child, did something so freaking horrible to her that nobody's apologized to her for. I mean, neither Max nor Stitch have ever acknowledged that something really terrible happened to her, that somebody did something that wronged her, and yet she is still trying to be a wife. She's disconnected from Max, but she's really still trying to be a wife to Stitch and talk to him, but he has this wall up where he just can't seem to let her in. There was a little moment this week though where it seemed like Ashley was able to get in a little bit easier than Abby, which I think is a sign that we're gonna see Ashley and Stitch getting closer and closer, because it was Ashley who was able to convince Stitch to actually talk to Max. I mean, Abby's been telling Stitch that there was something wrong with Max for a while, but Ashley says it, and all of a sudden Stitch really does go listen to the kid talk, hear for himself, and understand that there's something more going on there than what he's saying, and he did, and it was just absolutely heart-wrenching. I mean, and not because of Max, but because I think of Stitch's story and Abby's story. It's just incredible, because everyone is now, they're just blown away that a child could do something so horrific and so hurtful, and to have no remorse for it whatsoever. Everybody wants the kid to get help. Everybody seems to have this acknowledgement that he needs serious therapy. There was this weird moment in the lab before Max got taken away where Dr. Neville seemed to have this strange bit of sympathy for Max in a world where everybody else is like, this kid definitely needs help, but kind of focusing on Abby and Stitch. It was this bizarre comment that Dr. Neville made to Dylan, saying to Dylan, can you please make sure that Max gets the help that he needs, because he's maybe not a lost cause. He says something about, I knew a kid back in Ohio who also had similar problems like this, and with the right help and the right guidance, he may go on to be okay. He may even be a doctor or a scientist. I believe that Max has potential, and it was just a striking moment that I think I'm dying to know what there is more to that. I mean, of course, I am a huge Dr. Neville fan. I am over the moon for Simon Neville, and I got this impression that all of a sudden we're not talking about Max here, we're talking about you. Please tell me though that Dr. Neville was not some psychopath kid. I mean, okay, you're a troubled kid, all right, that'd be okay, but please tell me that you're not identifying that much with Max, because that tells me we got some trouble on the way from Dr. Neville, which I kind of think something needs to happen there. Y&R has such a gem with him, and I would love to see them develop that character. We don't know much about who he is, and I think Y&R needs to dig in and tell us that story. So I'm hoping that that is a little bit of a window into some future of more Dr. Neville. But I will say I did not agree with him at all. I am not sure that there is enough help in the world to turn that kid into a doctor or a scientist. I am all for getting Max help, and maybe I'm just being cynical here, but at whatever age he is, what age could he be? 10 maybe, tops? He has shown homicidal tendencies. He is a compulsive liar. He is a fire starter. How can you recover from that? I mean, the best you can do is manage it for the rest of your life. The best you can do is manage the crazy, because that is in your DNA. You don't go from being a child, homicidal person, compulsive liar, fire starter, to just being completely okay, rational, well-adjusted adult. Like, that is something you are going to have to struggle with. You are going to have to work at your entire life. And it is serious business. And I just don't know. And I don't know if Y&R is going to take us on that part of the story. At this point, because Max is dangerous, he had to get dragged away by child services. I mean, Dylan literally dragged him off the scene, kicking and screaming, "Daddy!" I've never heard him say daddy before, and Abby commented that too. It's like all of a sudden, when it mattered, Max turned into this little helpless child, wilting flower, and you can't buy it. It's like you want to buy it. I think it made Stitch's perspective so much more understandable in that moment, because you see a kid who needs help, who's hurting, who's screaming daddy, who's scared, and you want to help them. Your natural reaction would be to help them if you didn't know that this kid is manipulating. And I really tried to zero in on Stitch throughout the course of this week, because last week I felt mad at him that he just wouldn't see what was right in front of him, but at the same time, he is a father. He feels like his son doesn't have anything or anyone except for him, and I can't understand why he would want to give his son the benefit of the doubt. It doesn't necessarily mean that I understand why he would choose not to relate to Abby or talk it through with her. I think he made the wrong decision by moving them into the hotel. It did give the appearance of him choosing Max's side, but I also understand that Stitch just wanted to protect his son. That's all he really wanted in any of this, and now, unfortunately, he's in a position where he can't do anything. Max gets an evaluation from a psychiatrist who says, yeah, Max said all of the right words, but I don't detect any remorse from him. I think that he's giving lip service. I don't think he understands really truly what he did was wrong. And you can even see it in Max's actions, where he's like, all right, well, I confessed, ready to go now? I mean, you know, it's clear that there is something deeply, truly troubling and disturbing about this child. And I loved, thank you, Y&R, that they brought Paul in to talk to Stitch about it, because we chatted last week about how eerily similar it was to Paul's situation with Ricky. I mean, Ricky died probably right there in that same hotel room that Max jumped out the window of. I mean, Max went out that window, Ricky went out that window too and didn't survive it. So I was so happy to see Paul giving that advice to Stitch and saying, I had a son who was deeply disturbed and I didn't have a chance to get him the help that he needed. So if I were you, I wish that I would have had that opportunity. So I think that helped Stitch get a little perspective of what's going on, because I think it's natural to not assume that your child is psycho. You would want to believe them, and we had to see the process of Stitch coming around to that realization and having to tell his son that he's not gonna go anywhere. You're not coming home with me. You have been deemed a danger to society. You're going to be put in a children's ward. Oh my goodness. Are we gonna keep seeing Max? Is that gonna be kind of the end of his story? I hope they recast him as an adult, because he's gonna be a really good troublemaker. I mean, say what you will, the whole storyline has been fascinating. I really have enjoyed this way more than I thought I was going to. It's dark, it's real dark, but I've quite enjoyed it. But I think probably we'll see less and less in Max, and the story will now become about Stitch and Abby's relationship. The thing where I do struggle to identify with Stitch on is why he's pushing Abby away now. Why can't he connect with her now? She didn't do anything wrong. She's offered nothing but complete support to him, and he doesn't want to be around her. He's still living in the hotel room. He really doesn't want to spend time with her, and he's pushing her away. And I have got to give an incredible amount of credit to Abby for not letting him push her away. There was the scene, I think it was at the very end of Friday, or the last that we saw of this set of storyline, where he tries to tell her to just leave, I don't want to talk about anything, and she could have just turned around and walked out the door and sucked on her thumb and went home and brooded about it or cried about it, but she didn't. She said, all right, and she just kind of crouches down beside him and says, then we don't have to talk at all. We can just be here. And I'm just so impressed with, despite everything that she's been through, despite the fact that no one has given her really an apology, that she's gone through something really traumatic, that she is actually becoming so mature as to try to put her husband ahead of her and to try to be there for him regardless of everything that she's been through. You know what? Good for Kane. You go, Kane. I was really proud to see him actually go through with telling Lily the truth about Neil and the kidnapping and Neil's dirty little secret. You know, Kane and Lily say no more lies, and he chose not to do any more lies. Of course, the lie really didn't affect him. We'll see how Kane does the next time there's a lie that he needs to keep from Lily that would actually affect him. But for now, he did it. I mean, Neil tried to talk his way out of it, saying, you know, Kane, let he who was without sin cast the first stone. And Kane said, no, I am not getting caught up in this trap. I'm telling my wife, and he did. And Lily confronted Neil, saying, what kind of father are you? I mean, look at what happened to Devon during that period. We all were looking for Hilary, and Devon was being suspected of her murder, and you stood there and you said nothing. The one thing that I think Lily missed saying was how it really affected her, because meanwhile, as Neil knows exactly what's going on with Hilary, exactly who the kidnapper was, Kane got accused of extorting Devon from that bag of money, and if I'm not mistaken, that ended up leading to, I think it was Joe who set Kane up to make it look like that, and then Joe, that kind of gave him an opportunity to cause a a wedge between Lily and Kane, sleep with Lily, and that almost completely destroyed her marriage. She didn't even mention it. I mean, I'm certainly not saying that it was Neil's fault that Lily slept with Joe Clark, but at the same time, Neil was keeping this big secret that had he been honest and open about, none of that would have happened. So I was surprised that she didn't even bother to mention how it affected her. She seems to be really focused on how it affected Devon. And if she goes to the police, that not only will Neil go to jail, she thinks Neil should go to jail. She wanted Neil to tell the truth, but she is now realizing that Devon would go down as an accessory. Dr. Neville would go to jail for his part in Hilary's treatment and everything that was illegal about it. The research that Ashley is doing would go right down the tubes. So Lily is kind of forced into keeping the secret of Neil's, but the trust is broken. There is no more daddy's little girl about it for now anyway. Lily is absolutely crushed knowing that her father could do something like this. And not only that, but it just adds fuel to the fire of how terrible of a person Lily thinks that Hilary is. Oh my gosh! If Lily could not take out her anger fully by going to the police, she sure could take it out on Hilary. She walked right up to Hilary and said, "You lying, cheating, backstabbing skank!" And she tosses that glass of water right in Hilary's face. It was fantastic. I love that she called her a skank. Who even says that anymore? I died a little inside in a good way. And I knew, by the way, as soon as Lily walked onto that scene with that glass of water, I was like, oh please, that's going on Hilary. Hilary's about to get wet. It was fantastic. Oh yeah, that was good. And especially when everybody else ends up having to kowtow around Hilary, I like that Lily got one on over her. That was fun, really fun. But ultimately, I kind of feel like Lily knowing just gives Hilary more power, because now everyone knows the stakes if Neil's secret gets out among more than just the family, that everyone's pretty much going to go to jail, that it's going to rock the Winters family, and it's going to rock the business. Like, ultimately, I kind of feel like now that's just more power in Hilary's pocket. Hilary pretty much has everyone, including Lily, right where she wants them. Honesty is the best policy. Which hypocrite in Genoa City said that line last week? Why, it was our very own Neil. As soon as the words came out of his mouth, honesty is the best policy, I thought, oh well, that seems like some foreshadowing there. He was commenting on Charlie and wanting to help coach Lily and Kane through getting Charlie to tell the truth about everything that went on with Max. And I think that's probably what made the sting even worse when Lily found out. I mean, wait a minute, you're my father. You're supposed to be the champion of the family. You're supposed to be the one who's setting the example. Honesty is the best policy. And look what you did. So I thought that was a really great line. And maybe a little bit more of a tricky one too. Not as many people got that. Just Sharita, Sean, Austin, and Naomi got that one right. It was a little bit tricky. I gotta try and make them a little more challenging. So how about this one for this week? Jealousy is a natural human emotion. Who said it? If you think you know, which other hypocrite in Genoa City would say such wise words of wisdom, such wise words? Jealousy is a natural human emotion. You can go to yrchat.com and leave your guess. If you get it right, and if you leave your guess there on the website, I will give you your shout out during next week's Y&R Chat. It's comment time. I know you guys had a lot to say this week. Connor left me a voicemail saying, "How disgusted are you, Allie, on a level of 1 to 10 with Billy and Phyllis?" I am at a 20. And Y&R play that nice music during this affair. It's so belittling. Poor Jack. Poor Victoria. It makes me, as a Phyllis fan, look at her in a different way. I've accepted the fact that she's crazy, but this is too much for me. And James at yrchat.com says, "I don't know who I'm more disgusted with, Billy or Phyllis. I feel bad for Jack. He's the writer's favorite whipping boy. Now it looks as if Hilary is next in line to sink her claws into Jack. Bring back Genevieve for Jack, someone closer to his age." Oh my, I kind of am guessing on the poll this week that more people are gonna vote Billy and Phyllis are not hot. But I will say, Katie left me a comment on Facebook that pretty much summed up the way I feel. She messaged and says, "I'm literally watching Phyllis and Billy between my fingers." I can't watch, but I must. That's exactly how I feel. I mean, it was one of those things where I can't really get too up in arms about it, I guess, because we saw it coming. We knew it was gonna happen, but at the same time, it's not good. It's not right. I mean, I can understand Billy being angry with Jack. I can't understand sleeping with the man's wife. And I can't really understand why Phyllis would throw away a perfectly fine marriage just to have sex with Billy. But yet at the same time, I just couldn't help myself. It was very compelling. Anna says, Anna left me a voicemail and she commented, "So much has happened on those Chancellor Mansion stairs." I thought that was kind of funny because, you know, watching Billy and Phyllis get it on the stairs, I had flashbacks too of all the things that have happened in that house. I mean, didn't Esther give birth to Chloe on those stairs? I mean, who knows what else? Probably the last person to have so much sex in that house would be Jill. Her and Colin were doing kinky things up in the Chancellor Mansion, so I don't know. Maybe it's somehow appropriate that Billy is taking the torch, taking Jill's torch and doing naughty things. What would Catherine say? That was occurring to me too. Like, I'm imagining that Catherine's ghost is looking down on Billy and Phyllis doing it in her house, and there's one part of me that's like, oh, Catherine would be so furious that this is going on. And then there's another part of me that'd be like, man, maybe Catherine liked the drama. Maybe Catherine's got some popcorn or something and she's watching it. I don't know. But I do, just on James's comment, by the way, I just have to say, I don't know if Jack and Hilary are going to have a relationship. I really don't, and I hope not. At this point, after watching them interact a couple of times, it's not really where I'm hoping it's going either. But I will submit that rather than bringing Genevieve back for Jack, who I didn't like, just me, I really wish they'd bring back Dr. Emily. It'd be a way to bring the actress who plays Patty right now back on the show too, because she's really fun. I always thought there's something good about that relationship. I don't know why they didn't pursue that. So yeah, I don't know. Billy and Phyllis, I'm not too up in arms about it, but I do feel really bad for Jack. I know there was some talk a little bit on the Y&R Chat website about Jack and Victoria possibly hooking up. I just don't think it's going to happen because the die is cast for Victoria and her new man. I think that Billy and Phyllis are probably going to continue to have naughty sex in Catherine's house, and I don't know what's going to happen to Jack. I really appreciated that Justin left a link on the yrchat.com website to a Twitter status that Eric Braden had posted about the color of Catherine's mansion. He was completely chiming in and saying, ugh, that color, it's too dark, I wish they'd change it. And I love that. That was a little treat for me. I just was delighted to hear that Eric Braden thought that the mansion was too dark too. So thank you for telling me that, Justin. Also, Justin left me a voicemail saying reminding that this is the 3-year anniversary of Gene Cooper's death this past week. I think it was May 8th, 2016. So can you believe that it's been 3 years without Catherine? I mean, it like in some ways it seems like it hasn't been that long, and then in other ways it just seems like an eternity. So gosh, it's so weird to check in on how fast time flies and how slow it goes all at the same time. Congratulations, Justin, on your college graduation. I don't know why I almost said engagement. College graduation. He's graduating this past weekend, so congrats. Here's kind of one of my little gifts. I guess I don't know if it's a gift for you, but it's a gift from Justin to the Y&R chatters. I mean, literally probably 2 months ago, Justin had called in and asked me a really good hypothetical question, and I didn't have time to get to it that week, but I put it in the back of my brain, and like every week that's gone on since then, I've been like, oh, I gotta post that question on the website, gotta post it, and I have not done it, but this week I'm doing it. So Justin had called into my voicemail and asked if Y&R were to recast any character on the show as me, like as in the role of XX person is now being played by Allie, who would it be? And I thought, oh, that is such a fantastic question. And Justin had answered his own question saying, well, I would like to be recast as Malcolm. And I thought to myself, well, who would I want to be recast as? And I thought that'd be a really good question to toss out to all of the chatters. So if you want to go to yrchat.com, I've got that question up on the website if you want to tell me who you think you could play the role of, or, you know, for whatever reason why you would pick that character. I keep thinking I would want to be recast as Victoria. I could kind of see myself going in there and doing some Victoria, or maybe possibly a long lost Victor Newman child, because I think I'd have to be Victor Newman's child, right? I have this uncanny ability to make excuses for the man that it's the only one of his children would be able to pull off. I don't know if I could quite be as cold as Victoria is, but if there's anybody, I think I'd like to play Victoria. I think it'd be a little fun. I'll take some egg on my face, why not? But yrchat.com if you want to tell me which character you want to play. Okay, so Kim, also at yrchat.com, speaking of Victoria, says Victoria is throwing herself at this Travis guy. He seems way more into her than she is into him. It reminds her of the relationship with Stitch. He was so in love with Victoria, but she basically just saw him as a distraction to keep her mind off Billy. I think we're seeing this with Travis. I love that comment, Kim, because that's exactly what I'm thinking. There's no way she's falling in love with him. And we saw from the previews of Monday's show that she goes back to the bar and she accepts his offer to go back to his apartment or whatever with him. What? There's no way. This is not like, it's not very Victoria-like, and it does come off as like clingy or desperate or trying to fill a space. I think Travis and Victoria could completely have potential, but not if he's just her rebound guy. Sharita at yrchat.com left a comment that I didn't want to fail to mention about last week's poll question and the paternity issue. Sharita says, I'm in the minority, but I think the baby should stay with Dylan and Sharon. After all, he doesn't have a mother at all anymore. Why rip him away from the only family he knows? Plus, he won't be burdened with the curse of being Victor Newman's heir. I think Dylan deserves a break, for goodness sake. I really love that comment, Sharita, too, because I think that's what Sharon's thinking. I think if anything, that really speaks to Sharon's motivation. Why not let Dylan win? Why continue to put this child into any more turmoil than necessary? So I think you kind of nailed Sharon's motivation inadvertently there. Gary left me a voicemail this past week that said, I never thought I'd say these words or live to see this day, but I am loving Abby. I love her compassionate tone throughout this whole thing and her understanding of Max, Stitch, and the help that Max needs. I also loved that cool, intelligent detective that Ashley showed herself to be. Yes. I know, I can't believe it either. I'm feeling Abby, and it was bonus points that Abby was wearing that adorable rabbit blouse on Friday or Thursday. So I'm like, all right, I think they're tapping into something that I can really get into with Abby here. And Daisy on Facebook says, I was happily surprised to see Abby stick by Stitch and be there for him. She's becoming so wise and understanding, which is nice to see in this character. And that's exactly, Daisy and Gary, everybody who's feeling that way, that's exactly what we've been asking for from Abby, whether you're an Abby fan or not. I think everybody kind of had that consensus that we'd really like to see some growth from her, and that's absolutely what we're getting. Sandra at yrchat.com says, I do have compassion for Stitch and what he's going through now, realizing that he has a troubled son, but part of me wants to smack him for denying the truth for too long. And not just the truth about Abby's fall and the fire in the server room, but the truth was right there in the dirty looks Mad Max gave to Abby, the way Max kept trying to accuse Abby of hating him, the constant refusal to do anything with Abby. The signs were there long before Abby's fall. Ashley is really torn up, and it seems like there may be some sort of Stitch and Ashley reunion. Very well said, Sandra. I think that in all of this, that's also a piece that is missing is, we have Abby's understanding and sympathy and compassion for Stitch and his son, but we're not seeing that be returned to Abby and what she's been through and what she's lost. It's definitely something where Stitch became selfish and focused on Max only, and he did leave Abby hang there out to dry. But I love your point about the signs being there for much longer than before the fall. Really, really good point. Lot Valley on yrchat.com says, children are usually neither seen nor heard on Y&R. So it's interesting that we're all captivated by Max. Absolutely. Since when does a child, outside of a couple of different examples that Lot Valley did mention, Faith has her moments, Cassie had some moments, but really when in the past have we seen a kid really come up on the show and just draw us into this story? I think the little actor has done a great job, and really this story has come out of left field, but it's absolutely been captivating. Jen at yrchat.com says, hey Allie, I know I'm a newbie to Y&R, but it surprises me that Victor doesn't cut his children and Nikki off from his money and his businesses. That in itself shows that he still cares about them. He really could make their lives miserable. Don't they realize that they have what they have because of him? His children, Nikki, Adam, Phyllis, Jack, and Billy, and even Michael have done immoral things since I've been watching. They must not see it in themselves. I like that comment, especially at the end there, Jen, because it is true. It's like everybody is so willing to cast that first stone. Like Neil saying to Cain, let he who is without sin cast the first stone. But nobody really takes that moment to look in the mirror and reflect about all the things that they've done. I guess that's the nature of soaps, but I mean, you know me, I end up defending Victor far more than I should. But I like also your point about Victor cutting Nikki and the kids off from their money. I mean, if Victoria and Nick and Nikki and all these folks believe that nothing Victor ever did was ever good, then they should just do a move of solidarity and cut off their own bank accounts, sell Newman Enterprises, and stop raking in the cash on the back of the man who built the company. Okay, everybody, that does it for me for this week, but I really can't wait to hear your comments. So much chatter happening at yrchat.com, and it pleases me so much to see not only you guys commenting about the next week's show throughout the week, but commenting and talking to each other too. That is really, really fun to see. Keep those comments coming because I love hearing from you. Looking forward to the poll results this week. And I would love to hear from some people who who are pro Billy and Phyllis, because I'm hearing the people who aren't loving them, but I wouldn't mind hearing a perspective of someone who's like, you know what, yeah, they're hot, let's own it. Because that's the other thing, it's like, if you're gonna do something bad, Billy and Phyllis, at least own it. Don't feel sorry afterwards. And that's a difference too between Billy and Phyllis. It's like, Billy has done this bad thing, he probably knows it's wrong, but he's not apologizing and he's owning it. And Phyllis, not so much. So I want to hear you guys own your vote on hot or not. Look, I would love to hear what your recasts are. There's a lot of stuff you can do at yrchat.com if you would like. From there you can find the Facebook and the YouTube pages if you'd like to check those out. And of course, I love listening to my voicemails. So 309-588-4569 is the number. I think it's maybe 3 minutes before the beep, and feel free to leave more than one. I always love hearing from you guys, and I love coming back on Sundays to chat with you about our show. So I will see you next week for another scandalous edition of The Young and the Restless. Next time, bye!